Happy Monday, everybody! Welcome to the Dungeon Cooldown with Jess and...
Ron!
How is everybody doing? I see a lot of folks in chat already. Hello to Jim Whitted and Whisper Josephine, Jeffreakus, Jarilius. Who else do you have? Redheaded Stepchild 71. Hello. Treacherous Idol. Yep. Who else? It's me, Bando. Borkware Mark D. Always see you in chat. Hello. The Real Rogden in chat. Hi to everybody who's here. If you don't know, the Dungeon Cooldown is our talkback show where we talk about the Dungeons & Dragons episode that we had last Wednesday. And we kind of go over what happened during the episode, our thoughts and feelings as the performers and also as the characters. Sometimes we talk about acting, sometimes we talk about theories. Anything you guys want to talk about, we do have a Patreon. If you want to put your questions in there every week, we go to those first, and then if we get past those, we can start to answer questions from chat. Hi, who else, Elliot? Hello.
Hi, Elliot.
All right, so what's up first? How are you this morning, Ron? This afternoon.
Yeah, it's technically afternoon for us, but it's I just recently woke up, so that's how I'm doing. It's been a good day so far, considering it's only been about 20 minutes since my day started. Other than that, I'm keeping my hopes are up. I feel good inside, and generally I have a lot of joyful things to be thankful for in life.
That's great. I love that. Well, Ron and I have also been working hard together to for some fun new things for the channel, so that's been keeping us very busy. And I know the next short amount of time coming up that I will not disclose is a lot of getting down to business, and it's all fun. It's all good stuff.
Yeah, all good stuff. For sure.
Yes, exciting, Jim Whitted. I love that idea, Whisper Josephine. They said I have a great idea for a warlock. She's a librarian who finds a very misshelved book, and then when she opens it, she frees a minor god who is stuck in the book, and he's so grateful he offers to repay her by teaching her magic, and in return, all she has to do is not tell the other gods that he accidentally got stuck in a book.
I wonder where you got this idea from.
A bit Quillis inspired. But seems a bit more cheery, seems a bit less dark than his backstory.
Yeah, it seems a bit more like the one that came before him, right? What's her name? Horrible with names.
I have it. What's her name? Fahima, where's my Fahima notes? Let's see.
Gotta be in your Fahima notes.
Not Wax, not Sea Hag, not Slayer Blade. Fresha Pole? No. Yes? Yes. Fresha Pole.
I think that is.
Yeah.
Yep, that's her.
Oh, and you are a librarian, Whisper Josephine. Amazing. It's like a genie. Yes, newborn nerd.
I can say this with full confidence. I've met quite a few librarians in my life. I have not met one that I did not like.
Yeah, librarians are always very nice, very calm.
Yeah, they generally want to help you pursue knowledge, which I really appreciate.
I used to want to be a librarian. When I was a kid, I was like, what a great job. You just get to like look at books all day and help people find books. Amazing.
Yeah.
We did have a highlighted with channel points comment from Chifreakus. Friendly reminder question about whether the team is working on getting closed captions going for the Twitch live show. Yes, that's always something that's in the works. I think to be transparent about that, I think we're waiting on technology that can auto-transcribe the audio that comes through. That does exist right now, but it only exists for a microphone, for whoever is speaking, whatever mic is connected to the stream. So that's why Critical Role has people who live transcribe the show for them. And that's why other shows and some of my own shows on Hello Goodberry have the captions on the screen, because each streamer can hook up their mic to the captions individually, and then you can display that. But as of now, we don't know of any technology that can just take the incoming sound and have AI transcribe it. So that's kind of what we're waiting on. Until we can get the funding to have a live transcription team, that would be incredible. But that's what's going on. If anybody knows of the solution, let me know.
Yeah, trust me when I say that Jessica specifically has been advocating for this since day one that we've come over to Twitch. And we have both done considerable research on trying to solve the problem. I think that solution is not far away, considering where we are with AI. I don't currently know of that solution yet.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's
Right.
our first Patreon question?
Well, we've got one from Dr. Sparks here that says, for both Jessica and Ron, both of your characters expressed aspects of trying to learn from your past mistakes this episode. Do you feel that your characters are really making good progress in changing for the better with the events of the last episode? Good question.
Trying to look back on can you read the first part again? Looking back on our past behavior?
Both of your characters express aspects of trying to learn from your past mistakes this episode. Do you feel that your characters are really making good progress in changing for the better with the events of the last episode? I can say that I'm sure that there are people who would say that Ugo isn't making progress, and I would say there's some legitimacy to that. I think losing, if any of you have watched or our patrons, there we go, I can say words. You'll have seen my video about where Ugo and how to roleplay level loss. And some of that, I think, is, as I identified, regression. If you lose all this experience that you've gained in life, I have a feeling that you're going to roll back a few things. Just seems like that would be the case. If I woke up and didn't remember a lot of the wisdom that I had been gifted because of the experiences that I went in, that means I'm going to make the mistakes that I learned from, right? I'm going to make those same mistakes that I used to learn from. So one of those, I think, is for Ugo is tied into courage, right? Before, it's not that Ugo thinks he resolved his anger. He's still convinced that he has resolved his anger. But really what it was is the rage gave him the ability to overcome the fear that his anger was driven by. And that gave him the ability to be more confident, because rage allows someone to do that. You do things that you wouldn't normally do when you're enraged.
Yeah.
Well, now that he doesn't have the rage anymore, that's a little bit of a different thing. So for me, I think Ugo's trajectory on a better path is there. I think we're just in the very early stages of this new normal for Ugo, which means he's going to experience and learn things that he has regressed on. And I think one of those we've already seen is his courage.
Yeah, I loved that moment where Ugo got scared, because it was a bold choice to do that.
Yeah.
And thank you so much, by the way, Emotional Reserve, for your 5 gift subs to the community. We see you. Hello, thank you. One thing that I love about
I'm going to reserve my emotions about that.
One thing I love about your style of roleplay is that I think that you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you do a lot of research in your character. You do a lot of like I don't know if you physically journal it, but you do a lot of deep thinking about your character and where he's going and his character arc and the things he's experienced. But you also are very instinctual when you roleplay. I feel that when you make choices in the moment, it's very close to what you would do ideally in acting outside of the role-playing realm, which is you've done so much book work that you have the information about your character in your body, so that in the moment you can make these decisions and know that they're realistic and that they're justified.
Yeah, I think this comes into the improv aspect, right? In my study of improv. And a lot of that has been in life, there are a lot of decisions that you make that you don't contemplate through.
Yes.
That you just make.
Yes.
Because, and they're not wrong because you didn't contemplate them. They are just what you did, right? Like, I have learned, especially through improv, to trust my subconscious. That if I do enough prepared work prior to the being the character, then the choices that I make in the moment will become as surprises even to Ron.
Yeah.
Because I'm the character at that moment.
And isn't that beautiful?
And so there
when
are
that
plenty.
happens?
It also gives me chill bumps just thinking about when it does happen, because to find that as an actor is not easy in general. And then you have to try to do it for every character you play, which makes it even harder. So the fact that we all have moments of that and that we have done that is I think one of the reasons why this show is as good as it is.
I was just creating a new character with somebody, and he started to get a little overwhelmed and frustrated by the backstory process, because I was like, okay, well, let's figure out where you come from. Okay, how was society structured where you're from? Did you have any loved ones in your life? Have you lost anybody? And I kept pushing and pushing and pushing for more information. He was like, I don't know what I don't know. Do I need all this information? I feel like this is really hard. And I try to express that the more that you know before you begin, the more you know about your character, the easier it is in the moment to roleplay, because then you're not trying to justify what you do or making decisions in the moment like, what would my character do? You know where you come from. So
it's just like a novelist. Just like when you're writing a novel, you need to know what your character's wants, needs, and the opposite of those things. What do they not want? What do they not need? When you describe those things, then the story really writes itself, because now you know the character.
Yeah. And to that point, in this past episode, when Fahima pulled everybody aside and said, I don't know if this is the best choice for us to stay here and fight. I think maybe we should leave and not die. That was not premeditated at all. I didn't write about that before the episode began. I didn't even really think about that as a character arc for Fahima. It just felt right in the moment, because I thought, what are her goals? Her goals are further ahead, and Fahima as a character has a lot of empathy and sympathy for monstrous creatures, but she hasn't shown a lot of empathy for humanoids or for like society. So I think that all kind of played into, wait, why am I putting my life on the line for this when there's this greater thing that we need to accomplish? And
I think that was a beautiful moment, I thought too, because it struck Uggo as odd. Well, I don't know that I've ever, it just hadn't considered it, right? In Uggo's mind, he hadn't even considered about it, just like, well, why don't we just leave? Like, why do we have to stay? So that was like having Fahima kind of introduce that concept to him. Like, the thing about Uggo is he's afraid. Again, someone I think mentioned it. He's a level 4 in a level 10 world, so he should be afraid. But at the same time, it's like running away from someone trying to lock you in a cage is very different than running away from the entire situation as a whole. So, though it occurred to Uggo to leave the situation at the prison, it has not occurred to him until Fahima said so that they should just leave the city. And Uggo at first was like, no. But then when James came back with more information about, like, well, they're really here because they can detect the that's why they're here, and the idea is that if we leave, maybe they'll go. Uggo's like, okay, well, maybe it is a good idea. Yeah, it's easier out. Well, it's an easier out, less lives lost, hopefully, in that plan, if that plan can work out, because you don't have to sit and fight. You can leave, and hopefully they'll, jump with you. But clearly that's not in our cards, or at least it wasn't in our cards in the last episode. So, to see that come from Fahima was really interesting from my perspective, both as a player and as Uggo. It wasn't something that it's interesting to hear that you didn't you hadn't really thought of that prior to in the moment, because it definitely felt that way. It definitely felt like, oh, now we have all this information and we're all here and we just went through what we just went through. Maybe time just to peace out. I mean, well, a wizard with 0 spells makes sense. That let's just go.
Well, a huge part of it, and I said this in the Discord too, because somebody asked me, or somebody commented on Fahima's choice in the Discord under the Fahima thread, that I was really focusing on playing into the reality of the world, because we had kind of talked about that, and the way that Jeff described it was so intense. I mean, imagine the only people who can fight are these wizards that have, been using their magic sparingly for the past year or a couple months. I don't know how long it's been since the moratorium started. And there's demons flooding the city. We almost died twice already fighting these demons, and now we're going to go out and do it again. I mean, just imagining myself in that world. Fahima's nobility has directions. It is not all encompassing, I don't think. Sure. Whereas I think,
and that makes sense.
I think other characters are more noble in most situations.
I think Lily is probably the most noble of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would say James wants to be noble, and he's probably the most noble after Lily. And then it's probably a 3-way tie between or a two-way tie between you and Civ, and Uggo right above you with the nobility. And I think that's going to grow now that Uggo's no longer a barbarian. I think you'll see that the general nobility that he looks for is probably going to grow far more than it was before. The whole aspect of a barbarian is more chaotic nature than it is lawful one. And so I think now that you're getting a little bit away from the more chaotic nature of a barbarian and a little bit more, you know, I'm still not a firm believer in that paladins are lawful by nature. I think they're lawful similar to that paladins are to lawful as truth is to liberal. I hope that makes sense to someone. The idea is that, so being lawful to a paladin is like being liberal to truth. Generally, facts and science are going to lean progressive or liberal, just because the nature of searching for the truth is a progressive concept. So I think that's how I kind of relate to lawfulness of a paladin, is that they have an oath. So if you look at it in that manner, an oath is lawful. You're following a prescribed set of rules, but they do not have to follow the prescribed concept of lawfulness in the D&D frame.
Yeah.
Right? You can have a chaotic good paladin. Someone who goes in, steals from the evil, and gives to the poor.
Yes.
Like, that's a paladin still.
Yeah.
You can have a neutral good paladin. I'm a firm believer, and you can have a chaotic evil paladin. A chaotic evil paladin is life should not exist.
Well,
right? That's a chaotic evil paladin.
To me, though, I feel like
revere this oath.
I always think of when I started playing D&D, and I would look at those kind of like chaotic to lawful, evil to good charts, and I remember one that was Game of Thrones, and it really helped me put it into perspective. And lawful evil is Littlefinger.
Yes.
Or no, is it Littlefinger?
Yes, he's
I
lawful
think so.
evil.
He
takes advantage of the law
evil.
to do for selfish purposes.
So that's how I would kind of categorize paladins. I mean, I could definitely be convinced otherwise, but so far I think that's how I mean, I feel like they all follow their own law, kind of what you said, their own code of law. So that means they're always lawful to me.
Right. So in that way, that's what I mean. It's that manner of type of lawful, but that does not mean that they're the lawful version of the D&D version of lawful.
Sure. Okay.
Right, because I think, like I was saying, a chaotic evil paladin might have an oath of all living things must die. Like that's a law that they made for themselves, an oath they made for themselves, where they're now going to literally, ritualistically, and try to murder anyone they can. Right, that's chaotically evil to me. That's a chaotic evil paladin.
But I think it could be argued
very
that's
scary.
lawful. That's lawful evil if they're following a law of their own.
But that's what I mean. That's not necessary. That's a law of their choosing. So yes, there is some argument to be made that that's a lawful goal. But the concept of chaotic evil, as it's been known in 3.5, is literally kill anything that you can see.
This is like a whole sideshow to like pick different characters, different fantasy characters in other media and debate about where they fall on the chaotic,
where
lawful,
they fall.
evil.
Well, also the class stuff too, right? Like you could do that with classes too. It's what does Scooby do? Like, what is Scooby?
Oh, I don't know.
Like, what class is Scooby?
No.
I would make a claim that Scooby's a bard.
Okay. Because he's the goofy one. He lightens.
College of Comedy. He's the College of Comedy bard.
Yeah. Oh, Gord the Rogue agrees with you. And also, Hadrian says in chat, I think you could argue that Ashen Mage is chaotic good from her perspective.
Yeah, for sure. From her perspective, absolutely. And I think that's the point I'm trying to make, is that, you know, we have this experience in where we define the 9 grid, right? The 9 grid of lawful, good, lawful, chaotic, neutral, good, neutral, chaotic, or good, neutral, evil. And those are very limiting, right? So there's perspective, and we've even talked about it in the show. Uggo, you know, has this, he's questioning things and clearly misinterpreting things that he's realized. But then when he talks to Torvald about, like, from a certain perspective, you can see where she's coming from. You took all the knowledge from her. Someone was lying to her. So she wants to make sure that the truth is found, and she's the only one who believes that she can do it. From that perspective, you can understand where she's coming from.
But she does.
That is not the... Right, but that's what I mean. From the perspective, you can understand where she's coming from. But when you see the actions that she takes in order to instill that thing, that's when the evil happens. That's when you're wrong.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I think if you kill people, automatically you're not good.
Yeah, for sure. I would say that's the case. Yeah, if you kill people, generally, it only because sometimes you in D&D, you don't have a choice, right? The other individual gives you no choice. Like if I have to kill you in order to defend myself from you killing me, that's a different thing. But I would still say that good people sometimes do that, or have to do that, especially in the D&D world.
JT Justice one. What about letting people die?
No law against letting people die.
I don't know.
All right, we've got other.
Sorry, I just
Go
want to
ahead.
really quickly say I do think that Fahima's decision or her questioning not fighting with the city did not fall on the good side of the scale. I think if she was fully good, she would have stayed. She would have wanted to stay and fight.
It struck me as chaotic neutral. Is really what it struck me as. Yeah. It could be argued that there was some good intention there.
Yeah, definitely.
Because
Well, she wants to
ultimately
save
you
the
didn't
world.
want to save lives.
She wants to save the world.
Elliot, I agree. The TDR does need a trolley problem episode.
What is the trolley problem?
The trolley problem, it's mostly given and describing in like when AI have to make decision for cars or trolleys. So a trolley is going along the road. It contains. This is a rough estimation of the trolley problem. It contains 5 of your best friends. There are 1 old person, 2 young people, and 2 other individuals in the way of the trolley, and they cannot get out of the way. Whether they're tied down, they're in a car that is locked and not moving. There is only one way in which to change it, and that is either kill the people in the car or flip the switch and have the trolley hit the wall.
I have heard
So
this.
do you kill the 5 people on the cart, or do you kill the 5 people that are in there with you?
I'd prefer that we not have that question ever on the
That's a
Dungeon
trolley
Run.
problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll talk ourselves in circles for an entire 3 hours on that one.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the trolley problem. That's the essence of, like, that's an insolvable problem. There is no right answer.
Yeah.
There is no right answer.
Yeah.
You just make the decision. And it's easy to say that you made the wrong decision after it's happened, but it's a trolley problem and either decision was bad.
Yeah.
So, So there's a couple, I think there's some instances in when we've maybe seen that already. Not explicitly discussed as a trolley problem, but something similar. All right, so we've got other questions here. Let's see. Oh, Red Robin asks, when will the animated series of TDR be coming to Amazon Prime? If Critical Role can do it, just saying.
Well, tell all of your friends about the Dungeon Run. Seriously, we would really love to have more people in our community, more watchers in our community. That would help.
Yep. As much as we actors may hate it, ass in seats is the way that we progress. That's really the way of the world.
Yeah.
For our kind of world. So, and then Prowin from the Realm follows that question up with, also season 3 airs in theaters for Critical Role. I'm just saying that a finale to Act 2 should be in theaters on the big screen for TDR.
Well, how much does a theater cost? We'll get 10 across the nation.
I mean, I'm with you.
You got some
guys.
stocks
I'm
we
with
can borrow
you. I
against?
want myself. So the key to that is, if you're not a Patreon, then perhaps think about joining us. There's we've got cookies in plenty of varieties. They're not edible, unfortunately. They're mostly digital. But you got a bunch of cookies. You should come have some, including past episodes of this very show and new episodes of our newest show, Arcane Artistry. Okay, enough of that.
On that note, the Critical Role premiering in theaters and all the attention that they're getting is only good for the entire D&D community. The more that people and companies can see that D&D is something that people want, it's consumable, it's valid as media and entertainment, the better that is for everybody. So it's fantastic news that they're doing this, because it brings everybody up with them, and hopefully that includes us.
Right, rising waters raise all boats
Yeah.
is kind of what they say. So I firmly agree with you there. I think just in general, the success of Critical Role, as it has been explicitly defined, is good for all TTRPG and this style of entertainment. We've got one from Whisper Joe. How hard is it for you guys not to metagame when the party was split, but you were all still present? Is it difficult to act, though, as though your character knows nothing of what goes on the other half of the party when you all split? How do you guys handle that as players? Personally, for me, I have a lot of experience with this in other games that weren't televised in my life. It's kind of odd. I mean, we did take timeouts. We always had our secret rooms for very, very important things. But for things that required a little bit more finesse and you're trying to tell the story split between two areas on purpose, there was a lot of like staying at the table. I find it's obviously more difficult to do that when you know a thing and have to remember what you don't know. That's always going to be more difficult as far as a player is concerned. It's also very difficult to do in a live show when we have it set up the way we do. Getting, one person having us all take our headphones off, walk away, come back. It's very hard to communicate that way. But I find that Jared is really good at that and tries a lot and openly, verbally doing it. And I think that's a key to doing it, is to be open about what you do and don't know in the moment when you express it. But I think we also have crosstalk. We have crosstalk and we check each other. And that's like any game. Like in any game, hey, make sure you don't go over the lines. Hey, don't do that. That's technically a foul if you do it. That kind of stuff. So I think that's healthy in any group to constructively remind each other that you might not know that, or your character doesn't know that, especially for the DM. Because as a DM, that is so hard sometimes to recall who knows what knows who, and there's no solving that by a secret room for the DM. So I think in general, metagaming is a thing that is going to happen. It's inevitable in any game you play.
Yeah, it is.
It's
still
about
a game at the end
how
of the
they
day.
all treat it. Yeah, and it's about how the players collectively and the DM treat instances of the metagaming.
I love and hate secrets. I thought it was really fun in the beginning of the show when we had pretty frequent secret rooms. But at the same time, I mean, you saw me. I was like, I want to know for these secrets. But I think, secrets are juicy and it helps. Mystery is always interesting. And so I hope that we can bring that back a little bit. But as far as, split scenes, split battles, I don't think it's terribly important to not hear what's going on, because for the most part, your teammate is going to fill you in on what happened off screen, so to speak. Like maybe when you're going down to sleep or you're eating together, they would have filled you in on what happens, and we can't play out every single moment on screen. There is some assumed information. So I don't know. We kind of finesse it and we talk about it after the episodes, and we check in. And
it's like any improv show. Like if you've ever been a part of a long form improv show, when you're not on stage, you don't F off. You don't just like go off nowhere and don't pay attention. You're still watching what's being said and offered to you on stage, even though you're not on stage. And the reason that is because long form storytelling as a group is very difficult. It requires a lot of spinning plates. And if I don't know one plate is spinning when I'm trying to spin my own plate, they're all going to crash and the whole thing will fall. So there's a certain amount of, in this style of gameplay, there needs to be some acceptance of very low level metagaming.
Yeah.
Which is like you talk about, well, I just went upstairs and did a thing for 5 hours. I'm going to come downstairs. I'm not going to spend 5 hours now of the stream time to catch the characters up on what just happened.
Yeah, it's better for paying attention for brevity.
Right.
And I just want to say really quickly, thank you, Show985, for gifting 5 subs to our channel. Thank you so much. Those go out to Solid Splake, It's Me, Justin, Weebob4, Neoplatonic, and D&D Play 20. So thank you so much. And to answer your question, Newborn Nerd, our questions sent in this chat or a separate one, we answer questions sent into our Patreon first, and then if we can finish those, then we start to answer questions in chat. I mean, sometimes I answer questions like this randomly if they're short. Yeah. But that is the answer to that question. And I also wanted to say that there is still, because there was, what was it, like a month or 6 weeks where Fahima was separated from the group, there's still some things that have not been revealed from that, and I think that that's still very interesting. And I mean, it's been a year since that happened, and there's still things that have not surfaced that the audience that you guys know about, the watchers. I mean, it's really one specific thing, but I mean, imagine when that pays off. I mean, in my head, it's gonna be huge. I don't know if it's gonna be huge for anybody else, but it will be for me.
Well, hopefully it'll be a little bit like Floyog, where it's a huge payoff for everyone in the end, especially because the watchers know something that we don't, and they will see us learning about it in real time, which I think is cool. That's always a cool situation to have. So there's a couple more questions here. A lot of them are for me specifically, but here's one from James Moncton, also known as Jim Witted. Jeff's amazing reveal of Floyog's journey as a follower of the Candle Queen and his role in saving Civ really hit home at the time travel arc has created consequences for the main story. It's now hard to imagine the series without that section, even though it wasn't originally planned. I'd love to know both your thoughts on what your characters gained from that experience and how those events have shaped your current goals and ethos. Would Ugo and Fahima be acting differently now if they had simply walked through the entrance of the Forges without the amulet intervening with a 22-episode side quest?
That was such a loaded question.
It is a loaded question. It's certainly a loaded question.
There's a lot in there.
But I think the fact that Floyog exists purely because of my choice during that 22-episode side quest probably answers the question. I think even Ugo has started to realize that himself, and even saying it to Fahima. We're not alone, he says. The Candle Queen is with us. And not, before he always thought that she was with him in the way that gods are with you at all times. But to see an active result of the decisions that they made, consequences, the information that he gave that individual, and for, in Ugo's view, the Candle Queen to ensure that continued until they returned to the normal timeline in effort to heal Civ at the time and when demons are running rampant amongst the land. For a believer, that would be that is Ugo's right away. Okay, I always knew she was around, but now I know she's not just a god that's alive, she's active. She's active in the world. So I think that answers a little bit to that very loaded question for Ugo.
So the question again is, without the timeline shift, would we have acted the same way?
No, of course not. One of the first times...
I'm trying to rephrase it so I understand what
I'm
supposed
sorry.
to answer.
Yeah, I apologize. I thought you were asking me, my opinion. Would Ugo and Fahima be acting differently now if they had simply walked through the entrance of the Forges without the amulet intervening with a 22-side quest?
So I guess my answer to that is I feel that side quest, side timeline was a huge period of time of growth for Fahima. I think that she, along with the time spent with the Ashen Mage, she grew wiser to the world and wiser to the dangers that are out there. So, yeah, I think her progression as a character would have been, it would have come later without that time.
And I think, in general, the same. It's hard to say, hindsight's always 20/20 in every case. So I think it's hard to say that maybe we wouldn't come to the same conclusions because, who
knows?
I think that is. Yeah, I think that's, because especially for Ugo, the dealing with getting old so quickly with the ghost is still very impactful.
Yeah.
Of course. It still reminds him that, part of being a barbarian is you sometimes forget that you can die. When damage doesn't hurt you as much and you don't take as much damage, you take half damage than people normally do. You're willing to take more risks than before.
Yeah.
And so when you live that reality where it's the way I equate it into my own reality is that was the moment that Ugo went from 18 to 27, because and then before that he's like, I'm invincible, I cannot die, watch me do all these things, I'm even begging you to kill me to prove me wrong. But then when that happens, he's like, a ghost looked at me and I almost died. Okay, maybe I'm a little bit more weak than maybe I thought, just depending on the category. And now that he has none of that, it's okay. I am meat, and I will one day be turned into a clumpy form of it, so be careful.
Gamer Share said, agree with JLP's assessment of Fahima's growth. No more jumping to save every lethal creature they come across. That's actually been interesting because I think that there haven't been many creatures in a long time that Fahima would have wanted to save, because we've encountered a lot of demonic creatures, which Fahima has always assessed from the beginning that her dad taught her are innately evil. So they're not ones to be coddled and saved. And then the rest of the creatures I feel have been the hodgepodge type creatures, the ones that are kind of like stitched together, and so they're abnormal, probably from some evil creation, and the other creatures I think have been just like right off the bat hurting us. And so Fahima did make an agreement some way through the adventure that if her friends are being attacked, then there's no Hamlet. You gotta go for it and protect your friends.
Fahima doesn't know because she wasn't around us when we were doing it. But there was a point at which Uggo was testing how demonic these creatures actually are. Especially the big giant hand demons that were running around. There was a moment in which he tried to communicate with one and see if it would take any kind of domestication action, and he determined pretty quickly that they are clearly not that kind of animal, that they don't really function on normal, natural occurring animal things, and so he kind of stopped after that and realizing that, okay, these are just demons.
Okay.
We haven't had a chance at all to ever bring that up or to discuss it, or for Fahima to even know. Because that moment was actually, now that I'm recalling that it occurred, that moment was entirely inspired by you, Jessica.
Aww.
and your constant, clear through line through Fahima of, just because we call them monsters doesn't mean they're monsters.
And I would like to see that return too. I do hope that we encounter creatures that Fahima is like, wait. No, this isn't a demon. This is just a creature minding its own business. We're in its way.
Right. A bullet, for example, is a monster.
Yeah.
But really, it's not a monster. It's just a magical lion that can, dig in the ground.
Yeah.
So there is some room in some monsters. For demons, there isn't that room.
No, yeah. I definitely had to justify that. Whisper Josephine used their channel points to say, when will the next episode of Arcane Artistry air? Can you answer that really quickly, Ron? Do you know?
It should be at the end of this month.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Great. I don't want to spoil the surprise, but quite an interview. I cannot wait.
Yeah, you and Jared enjoyed that one a lot.
Yeah. We've got another question here.
Hadrian, yes,
it's
the
a
first
good
one was with Amy Vorpal.
Yes, it was.
It's up on YouTube.
It is up on YouTube. These will come early to Patreons, to all levels of the Patreon supporters, and then we will quickly turn them over. Since they are artists that are outside of our particular family, we want them to get as many eyes as possible. So we'll start them as Patreon only, and then probably a week or so after, we will turn them over to public for view. So just keep that in mind. There is a question from Francisco Garcia, which I believe is newborn nerd. Particularly Civ and Uggo have been crucifying Persta regarding the casualties in Turles. I think it's more Civ. Uggo has been upset about that particular thing, yes. However, has it occurred to the team that the reason for this carnage is because of what the team did 20 years back and brought the hilt there? I equate that to asking me if any of the members of I'll get there. If any of the members of Les Mis ever thought that Jean Valjean was just doing his job. Yes, they did, but it's the results that matter, right? Sure, I 100% agree that that James has something to do with the rise of the moratorium on magic. Do I lay it at his feet? Does Uggo lay it at his feet? No. Not at all. Because someone else made that decision. Right? Like that, there are multiple ways to respond to what happened. saying that this is the only one and therefore it's your fault is very authoritarian. And that is Ugo's biggest issue with Persta. Very authoritarian. I'm going to jail you because I think you should be jailed.
Well, imagine...
I'm going to put you in jail because there's a rumor that you did it.
Additionally, if you think about it in real world terms, think of your own community and maybe a big city that's nearby, and there are people who have been segregated to the outskirts of the city because of what they look like or their how wealthy or not wealthy they are. You know, they've been persecuted against in some way, and
what illegal thing they decide to involve themselves in with or not.
And then a natural disaster happens. There's an earthquake or a tornado, and the mayor decides, no, we're not going to call in our military force that we have access to. We've banned guns. So we're actually just going to close off the city, and tough luck, those who have been persecuted against unfairly are just not going to be protected.
It doesn't even have to be unfairly. Even those individuals who have knowingly committed crimes, you now don't get any safety because you're not human anymore.
Right.
There's a bit of be careful of what you wish for in that. And I also thought it was very telling that Persta, all of a sudden, when demons come, is like, okay, magic's fine.
But
I think that has a lot to do with our characters convincing her of that. And I get where she's coming from. I get the concept of magic is very harmful. Fireballs kill people. I get it. But at the same time, in magic, there's beautiful things like communication and healing and understanding animals and being able to talk to plants. And so,
I mean,
you know, more in the
healing is huge.
Yes, healing is the biggest thing there. Right. And I think it's a very, a good way to look at it is magic is not a gun. Magic is science.
Right.
Magic is just unexplained science.
Thank you for the cheer, Carson. Hi, how are you? And yeah, I was thinking Jeff still does a really good job of playing her as a complex, truthful character. So while her decision killed a lot of people, I think that she's still empathetic because she's a leader and she had to make a tough choice, and she did the best that she thought that she could. She's not a Cersei character from Game of Thrones who's
Correct.
like, I need to protect my children, my own personal values, so I'm gonna close off the city. She's like, this is how I think I can save the most people. So while it was not the best decision probably would have been to use magic, it's still believable that she's not being a bad person.
Yeah, I don't think, and Ron does not think that Persta is a bad person. I think Persta is convinced of her own solution.
Yeah.
Which we see that in lawful individuals all the time. That is a trope inside of lawful individuals all the time. What I think is right, it's been proven. See the data here? This is always the case. This is always the case. This is always the case. I also think, for me, it's an interesting... Whisper Joe asked about, well, she outlawed magic, but what about other things that kill people, like weapons? I think her point there is probably most people can pick up a weapon and learn how to use it. Not everyone has the capability of picking up and learning magic.
And there's a limit to a weapon, too. You get really good at using a sword, great. You get really good at magic, you stop time. You instant kill people. You control their brains.
So I understand the fear of magic. Just like I understand the fear of knowledge and the fear of science. I understand those things. We learned to split the atom, and the atom bomb is the first thing we did with it.
Ugh.
We didn't outlaw science.
Right. Yeah. There was a comment that I saw up in chat here. I bet JT Justice says, I bet she had a traumatic experience with magic and doesn't want that to happen. That's a lovely theory. I think that would be really cool if we had this in TDR in a novel version. We would learn all about her backstory and just how she made every decision. And I also saw Frankly Delicious say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yep, absolutely.
Wow. And
that goes both ways. That goes for our characters as well as Persta. So that's just a general thing that I try to think of constantly. Good intentions are the fastest pavement to hell, for sure. Carson says her whole argument was that people chose to live in a way that made them happy and made them enjoy life. That's why they died. Kind of screwed up.
But
okay.
They chose?
Yeah, well, they chose to violate.
Chose to be like,
yeah, they chose to violate and because they chose that decision and they chose to be in choosing that decision, they also chose to be exiled from the city.
Yeah, there needed to be some kind of agreement where they said, hey, if you decide to live outside the walls of Turles, then you are not offered military protection. But I don't think that was stated.
Yeah, I don't think that was stated either. Okay, we've got other questions here.
Ooh, run out of time. We got to answer them quick.
Yeah, we do. I've tried to stay at ones that didn't include both of us because I didn't want this to be all about Uggo. So there were a couple that were just about Uggo. And I think we've gotten through most of the other ones that were all of them. Here's one that also includes you, Jessica. So Ron from Ojito 17. Ron, how jealous / envious / it's plainly unfair / I have finally come to a happy place with it of Jessica's one-on-one time with the crafty DM when Fahima was hanging with the Ashen Mage. So I think the question is this: am I jealous of Jessica's one-on-one time with Jeff and the Ashen Mage? Absolutely. Am I upset about it? Not at all. Of course I'm jealous. I would love that. But I think it was the perfect choice in the moment and the perfect character in which to do that. I would only want that for Uggo if it made sense in the way that it made sense for Fahima. So that's how I'll put that. I think that's one of the greatest things that I've ever seen. I love that whole arc. I still don't know what happened, and I love it. That's the thing. I have no idea what really happened on any of it, and I love it.
Someday you'll be able to watch it. But I do think that time spent with her was kind of the equivalent to visiting everybody's hometown, because we haven't seen much of Pebbles' backstory, so that was an opportunity to see more about Fahima and how she thinks and develop her backstory in real time, as Jeff and I have both said. So
yeah.
Brian
Hughes says, I was glad to see Uggo refer to himself as the leader of Thorn. I was hoping he might try and help talk with Pasha Persta Samuels. Was it that too much was going on, or is Uggo not comfortable calling himself the leader of Thorn yet? One, I think it's Uggo realizes what that means. I think Uggo does realize what it means to be the leader of Thorn, and probably doesn't want to, and has found himself not wanting to just throw that around willy-nilly. And he didn't do that in the when we came to the prison, largely because didn't want the leader of Thorn to all of a sudden be a pawn piece that could be used against Thorn. So part of running at the prison isn't just that his family told him to. It's also, well, now I'm leader of Thorn, and if I get caught, where's Thorn at? So some of it was that as well. That's why when they were safe and Persta starts trying to tell Uggo who he is, the reason he brings up Thorn is because it's not necessarily to inform her. It's a way for Uggo to remind himself. Uggo is Thorn to be safe forever? Probably. Yeah.
Shoot, I muted myself for Pebbles. I asked him what would it take for Uggo to accept the leader title. They heard you though.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's more of to see the results of leadership benefit the city. I think then maybe he'll accept that. I don't know. For me, my personal opinion on leaders is you want leaders who don't want the job, but that's really hard, right? Like, it's really hard to find people who will do the leadership job who don't want to do it. And that's really what we need, is leaders who don't want to be leaders, or don't seek out the power of leadership.
Yeah.
I think that's very important in leadership. There's some debate here about whether Persta was clear to the residents of the city. My point is, it doesn't matter whether she was clear or not. When you say if you break the law, you no longer have rights, I want nothing to do with you as a leader because you're not thinking things through. The only reason people do crimes is because they have no other options.
Yeah.
Right? Crime doesn't just exist out of randomness.
Yes.
It exists because there are no other options. The data has told us that's true about crime.
Poverty.
And so if you say poverty, all of that, right? It happens because there's no other options. So it's one of those where even if you said it out loud explicitly to me that if you commit a crime, you're no longer part of this city, I'm going to resist you. Hands down, going to resist you. And I think everyone should. If they're trying to put you in boxes that are easily a way to dismiss you, that's someone you probably shouldn't trust with your livelihood. Just my opinion.
Gamer Share, I'll get to that comment if we can get through all of the Patreon comments.
I think, let me check right here. I think that's all of our Patreon questions for the day. Oh, there is one last one, but we could probably get Gamer Shares before we get this last one.
Shush. I've been gone all weekend, so Pebbles is like, give me attention. Thank you for the gift sub to Omas. That goes to WolfWolf2233. Thank you so much. Yeah, so Gamer Share used their channel points to highlight. Somehow I kind of resonate with how Fahima had private time with the Ashen Mage away from the group for her personal growth, but conversely, Ugo's growth, aside from privately communing with the ancestors and the Candle Queen, has happened significantly in a much more public way. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that might be, at least from Ugo's side, that is because so much of Ugo has been private, and so much of what Ugo has suffered through has been internal, and he has seen the results of that from previous individuals and how they treated him. And since he's met Lily has been very open about, here's how I feel, here's how things are, and Ugo from the get-go realized that was a good way to be. And so I think that's why you're seeing him be so public about why he's changing, is because for him, taught through Lily, this is the way to change.
And conversely, we saw from the beginning of the story that Fahima is very outward about her growth, and she's not very subtle. She just says exactly what she means. And so I thought that was a great opportunity for Fahima to have some more internal growth, and kind of the opposite of what you just described for Ugo. But yeah, I mean, I'm very excited to visit Axbright if we can get there and see what is to come, because there's a lot more growth to be done, and that will be much more public with Conroy when and if we meet him, and Lord Ereban, Keeper of Secrets.
Well, and also, Jessica, you're literally born of a secret.
Yeah.
Right? Fahima is literally born of a secret. I think it's okay that you have secrets. You are a secret. So it just makes sense that your character would be secretive about things. Well, it makes sense that would be.
And because of that, because I was born of a secret, I didn't have any information to have secrets in the beginning. So
right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Carson highlighted just a quick compliment on the whole team's webcam game recently. Amazing quality. I'm jealous. Thank you so much for noticing.
Yeah, we've been working real hard on that. More changes coming as things continue to progress as they have been.
Yes.
We keep teasing that. I'm telling you guys, it's coming. Yes, if you are, we're getting towards that time. So if you do love the Dungeon Cooldown, and you would like to be a little bit on the ball in the game, we do have a Patreon. For as little as $5, I think. Do we have a $1? I think we might even have $1 though.
Do we have a $1?
Maybe we don't. Maybe we don't. No, we don't. We don't.
We don't.
So for as little as $5 a month, you can join us here on the Dungeon Cooldown. Get your questions in before the cooldown. Get them some attention. Additionally, we have additional tiers that give you progressively higher and higher cookies or rewards or chests, if you wish, including merch discounts. And keep a lookout on the merch store because there's always new stuff coming. To all the way to if you join our Chrono Dragon, you can get a message at the beginning or on our show every week, as well as various other tiers in which even you can get your names said at the end in our fun little improv games. So for all of you who watch, for all of you who support us, however you do so, whether it's monetarily, time is money, so time is also that. So thank you everyone for being so supportive. We really do appreciate it. We could do zero of this without any of you.
Yes.
So thank you everyone for being here.
And the best way to support us, like we said in the beginning, is to tell your friends and grow our community. So you don't have to monetarily support us in any way. Just show up for the show and hang out. That's the best thing you can do. Retweet, comment, interacting with the show in social media is worth every penny. Oh yeah.
So please help us with that.
We don't have an FAQ, I don't believe. The website for the Dungeon Run is on the way. We'll be sure to include that. We'll also take questions and suggestions for the website for more FAQs. But the answer to how to ask Patreon questions is every week. I think most of the time it's Morgan posts in the Patreon. Here's the place to ask your questions for the cooldown, and then you just comment on that post, and that's where we pull the questions from.
Additionally, there's some DM insights at our Amulet Keeper. We get cash secrets at the Warden level, including your discount codes. The Team Forces of Good and Evil, they get their name shout out at the end of every show. Additionally, Doug in Texas, you did identify that participating also gives you the option to suggest closing credit name themes as part of the Patreon as well. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Keep a lookout. Our next show is on Wednesday. We got a lot of cool stuff coming, so keep your eyes peeled for some of that. And I think that's it, right, Jessica? I think we're done. Anything else you got?
I think so. Just 2 more weeks till our 100th episode. Next week is 99. Can you believe it? 99. How have we done 99 episodes? Man.
Time.
Wow. We're really ingrained in each other's life.
We really are.
We've spent so many hours together. We've spent more hours with each other than some of our own friends.
Yes. Well, that's why you're my friend.
Outside friends.
That's why we're so close friends. Because we spend so much time together.
And we talk about our feelings a lot.
Yeah, well, yes. Yeah, and rightly so. More friends should. And we also think about deep, hard concepts that are tackling the world. Mm-hmm. So if you guys want to have better friendships, find friends and you can do that healthily. All right. Well, that's all we have for today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you on Wednesday, 6 p.m. PST, right here on twitch.tv/The Dungeon Run. I'm Ron Ogden.
And I'm Jess. We'll see ya in 2 days. Bye.
Humankind.
Be both.
Be both.